Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rundown. This is episode number 29. It is the week of October 17th. And speaking of the 17th and 29, it's the 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Today, we have the Feast of St. Luke. Tomorrow, of note, in the Diocese of Columbus, it's the Feast of the Dedication of our Cathedral on Wednesday. That, of course, trumps everything else throughout the diocese. It's a solemnity at the cathedral. It's a feast elsewhere in the diocese. John Paul II on Friday, 30th Sunday, next Sunday. We're moving right along in terms of ordinary time. As for college football, Oklahoma put on a good showing with Caleb Williams being their new starter, perhaps, for the rest of the season. Could give them a run at the number 2 slot from Cincinnati. Iowa, having lost to Purdue, moves down to number 14. Ohio State, I think, takes that 4 slot. Alabama doesn't deserve it back at least yet. But, it's a toss-up between Ohio State and Alabama, in my opinion, or really any of the teams in the Big Ten, including Penn State. And Michigan, the other teams fall in line behind. Ole Miss squeaking out a win as well. Theoretically, it's still in progress as I record this video, but I assume they're going to win. Arizona State also, I assume they're going to win. If any of those things change, I'll be sure to update the description of the video. Ole Miss, there's a minute left on the clock. I don't think Tennessee's going to win, but that's kind of how it is. The tropics are quiet at the moment, so we'll move on to local weather. Columbus, it's going to be chilly to start the week, mid to upper 60s for the high, mid 40s for the low. It'll warm up a little bit towards the middle of the week. We'll have some rain on Thursday morning. It's going to be cold next weekend with highs near 80, and we could even see a few upper 30s on Sunday morning. So keep that in mind when dressing for church next Sunday. As for Normandy, we're going to have highs in the mid 70s all week. Morning lows are going to be variable, but somewhere in the neighborhood of the low 50s. It could be warmer, could be cooler depending on the day. The associated days listed there. Potential for some rain Friday and Saturday mornings. If that is the thing. As for COVID-19, update number 93 on this. Generally down across the board, only a 10% increase in just 3 states this year, or this week. Alaska, New Hampshire, and Vermont are those 3 states. Everywhere else decreasing, or at least on the way to decreasing, which is, of course, good news. 10% increase in 8 states this past week for daily new deaths. That was 10 last week. It's now only 8. Like I said, obviously Arkansas is one of those states. Again, I think that's just a lag in reporting. So don't worry too much about that, I don't think, there. Colorado, Nevada, New York, Pennsylvania, Utah, Virginia, and Wisconsin join them. Of course, the state of Missouri back to 0, which is where many states were at the later June, July in the summer when we were doing really well in this pandemic. So again, we're finally making our way back there. Hospitalizations also leveling out or heading down across many of the United States, if not all of them. ICU up in Illinois significantly. The other states, again, either leveling off or going down, which is, of course, good news. And I'll talk more about that when we get into the projections here in a second. Vaccinations staying relatively constant, 200 to 300 per day per state per capita. That's a lot of pers, but I hope you get the gist of it. Last week, there were 90% of the counties in the U.S. were under a high risk of COVID transmission, 6% substantial, and 4% either moderate or low. This week, we're up to 5% either moderate or low, which is good. 10% substantial, which again has increased, especially along the United States Southeast, Missouri, Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, and Florida. Most notable of those, of course, Puerto Rico looking better as well. 85% of U.S. counties are now high. That's down 5% from the previous week. So again, there's last week. Here's this week, notably being much better conditions across much of the United States. This past week, we're up in terms of our vaccination numbers, almost a quarter of the 3/4 of the population in the United States Northeast, with 1 dose, and around 70% on the high end in much of the Northeast this past week, with somewhere in the low 40s for those lesser vaccinated states at the moment. As we look at this, we do see 2/3 of all the eligible population in the United States has received the full vaccination, those 2 doses or 1 dose of the Johnson & Johnson. It's worth noting that of those with 1 dose, all the members of Congress, all living U.S. presidents, all sitting governors have received that vaccine. Most professional players have, I believe, all but like 1 or 4 or some low number of NHL players have received the vaccine. And so we're moving right along. If you aren't vaccinated, that comprises 99% of the current deaths due to the coronavirus. So again, get vaccinated. Now, I'm not going to tell you to get the booster shot because I personally don't think it's necessary, especially if you've already had COVID. There's no evidence to support that the booster shot helps that at this point, according to the latest data. Of course, it's COVID, so things change every week, every month, because they come up with new things on that. But as we see here, like I said, the forecast infections continuing to move downward will likely be around where we were in April or May of last year here shortly, which then will continue probably in about 2 months, say maybe Christmas time will be around where we were earlier this summer. And hopefully we don't see another Christmas time spike. And hopefully we'll put this pandemic to an end. I really think due to the vaccinations, this was the last wave, finally, of this pandemic, or at least the last major wave that we're going to have to worry about a whole lot. The United States down 130,000 cases in the previous week. Florida significantly dropping. Several other states just, moving around here in our top 10 at this point. Worldwide, we're down 150,000 of those current cases. United States continues to decrease. United Kingdom, Russia, and Turkey continue to increase, and several other countries increasing and decreasing accordingly. Those worldwide deaths likely to hit around 5 million here in probably 2 weeks or so. Mexico did move up to number 5 despite losing cases. Iran just lost cases quicker than Mexico did. As for the bishops this week across the world, we did have a few appointments. 2 priests had been appointed as bishops, 1 in Spain and 1 in France. We had a bishop appointed as an archbishop in Malawi. We had a bishop appointed as an apostolic administrator in Germany, and a priest in Italy was appointed to be the master in pontifical liturgical celebrations. We had 1 ordination so far. We have 2 today. Archbishop Kwam of the Melkite Greek Church in Syria is now archbishop. We'll have an archbishop of Chile and a bishop of Italy here later today. Probably by the time you're watching it, they will have received those titles. They're currently, of course, priests, and they're becoming bishops today. We also had several installations. We had 3 new bishops, and 1 bishop became a cardinal this week. We had no retirements accepted. We did have 2 very old bishops die, a 101-year-old bishop in Brazil and a 98-year-old in China. Not too much next week, but it is kind of important. One, of course, a Chaldean priest in Iraq is going to become a bishop next week, which is very cool. We'll have an administrator cease to be administrator, going back to his post as bishop, and an archbishop thus taking the place. And perhaps most importantly, and I mentioned this last week, the Armenian patriarch in Lebanon has been named, and he will take his position a week from today. So October 24th, the new Armenian Catholic patriarch will hold his position, and the administrator will revert back to his position as archbishop. That's all I have for this week's episode of The Rundown. I'll see you guys next time. Chris Hickson for the Catholic Media.